Hey everybody. All right, so this was initially supposed to be a live webinar, and I did do a live webinar, but I had so many problems with YouTube Live that I was not happy with it. Like, even the people who showed up, I just don't think, I was not happy with it at all. So I've decided that I'm just re-recording this, and I'm going to send it out to all of you, and thank you so much to the people who showed up, but like, there were issues with the chat, and I'm really sorry about that. I've done webinars successfully before. I did not expect that to be so bad. I'll use platforms that I know actually work in the future, okay? So seriously, I'm sorry about that. All right. Find your audience. How to find the people who want to buy your work. So, first of all, there is no easy solution. In fact, in some ways, this is the absolute hardest part of learning how to make a living off of your work. And the reason that's the hardest part is because it is the most important part, okay? If you find the right audience and you truly find that audience and you understand who they are and how to find them, everything else falls into place. But if you don't have the right audience, it won't work, okay? I won't say you won't get no sales, but it will be a constant uphill struggle. All right. So yeah, it is not a get rich quick promise. It is not here's, a gift wrapped answer for you. You don't have to do any more work. This is going to take work, but here are the tools so that you can do the right work and get the results that you actually need. All right. So yeah, it takes time, it takes trial and error. I've spoken before about my Etsy store, and it took me, I think, about 4 months to make my first sale, and honestly, it took me a year before I was consistently making sales, and I was really happy with how it was working, over a dozen products. It took a lot of trial and effort to figure out how to do it, okay? It was not an overnight success by any stretch of the imagination, right? It can take months to figure this out. Now, I'm going to give you tools again, and a lot of this, how long it takes, a lot of that is on you, all right? If I give you these tools and you go out, you close as soon as this webinar is done, and wait till the end, okay? You close the window and you immediately put into action what I told you, and you do that and you keep doing it for a couple of days. Honestly, it is possible for you to figure out your audience and even get your first sale within a couple of days of implementing this. However, it is not an easy thing to do. It takes time, and even using these tools, it can absolutely take you a couple weeks, even a couple of months. All right, but that's so much better than spending years and years and years blindly struggling, no idea what you're doing. All right, you have to put yourself out there, and it's one reason that a lot of artists don't do it. And by the way, it's not just artists, okay? I know a lot of artists who kind of feel like art is this mythical other thing that it's just harder to do, but it's actually not at all. Making a living off of your art, it's business, just like any other industry, okay? And look, if freaking Walmart can figure out ways to sell prints and posters, you can sell prints and posters, all right? And this is something that I see so many business owners in all industries struggle with. Who is my audience? Who should I actually sell to? That's a huge question that I come across time and again. All right, really is the linchpin, okay? If you don't understand this, you're gonna struggle, and if you do understand this, you will have, honestly, understanding this pretty much answers all the questions about how you sell things, because when you truly know your audience, you know where they are, you know what they want to buy, you know how to talk to them, all right? And that's what selling is. Okay, and now you have to get objective about your work. And this is another reason that this is very difficult specifically for artists, okay? Because our work is so personal to us, we are so passionate about it, it can be very difficult for us to truly be objective about it, okay? But if you want to do this, you got to be able to basically get out of your own way, get out of your own head, and truly put yourself out there and listen to what people say. All right, and I've got a picture of this cute kid over here to remind you that it's baby steps, okay? I am going to be throwing a bunch of information out there at you today, but just like pick one thing that you're going to do tomorrow, like actually, seriously, like as you're going through, if you see something that's just like, oh yeah, definitely that, write it down. And if you get to the end and you're not sure, hey, this isn't live, you can just rewind a little bit, pick a different one, and just seriously pick just one small step that you're going to take tomorrow, write it down, commit to it, take that single little baby step, all right? And then take another one the next day, okay? If that's all you can do, just keep making those little steps forward and you will get where you're going, all right? Baby steps. So, there are two basic paths to choose from. And I'm not going to lie, one of these paths is faster, and in terms of just find your audience, it's easier to find the audience. But this is not about better, okay? These paths, they are just different, all right? For some artists, one is right. For some artists, the other one is, all right? But I want to make sure you understand what these paths are so that you can choose them. And if you choose the slower path, I want you to be doing it intentionally and with awareness, all right? Okay, because this is your life and you're the one who's in control of it. You're the one who gets to decide what kind of art you sell, how you sell it, how you go about this, okay? It's what is so amazing about being a business owner. You get to create something that works for you, and you get to create a life that you want to live, all right? But you gotta know what you're doing. So, the first path is to create something that people already want. This is the easier path, all right? Some examples of it, of course, doing fan art, copying popular styles, creating things that, people are already into. And now the nice thing about that is that it's pretty easy, you figure out what people are already buying or what people are already interested in buying, and you create it, honestly, it's, again, there is trial and error involved here, okay? If you absolutely can get lucky and, create something and tomorrow make a bunch of sales doing this, but most people don't. And I shouldn't say get lucky, but there's a bit of luck sometimes. And also, yeah, this way, you're not creating an audience, you're finding an audience that already exists and putting yourself in there, and that it is faster because you don't have to create an audience. It's a lot faster to go into a crowd that already exists that is interested in this specific thing and give them things related to this specific thing, all right? That's a lot easier than going out and trying to figure out who's interested in the work you're creating. Honestly, building your own audience, it can be hard. And now, one thing that's really nice about this method is that you can actually start out doing this and create your own audience this way. I've seen a couple of artists do this really effectively. They start out doing fan art, that's predominantly what they post online, and with the fan art, they go viral a few times. One person in particular, she was posting Disney princesses, and I know she went viral a couple times, on BuzzFeed or whatever else people go viral on. And because of that, she had this pretty big following, and after that got big enough, she talked a little bit about her original characters. She posted 1 or 2 pictures, and because she'd spent so much time building up that audience of Disney princess fans, the audience, they grew to like her style specifically, to like her as an artist. And so once she kind of started dripping that little hints of what she does for herself, her audience was just like, oh my gosh, I want to see more, I want to see more. Okay, whereas if she had started out posting her original characters, it would have been a much, much more difficult climb to build that same audience, okay? So I do want to make it clear that this is absolutely a method where you can start working with a pre-existing audience and use that to build your own audience that you then sell your own work to, okay? All right, now the con of that is that you have to do work other people want, which honestly, you have to find work that you want to do for other people. Because you know that when you do work and your heart's not into it and you're not enjoying it, it's crap, okay? It's not going to look good. It's not going to come out well. And also, frankly, it'll be obvious, like with your interactions and that, you know. If, let's say, you're like, oh, hey, Star Wars is popular right now, and you know absolutely nothing about Star Wars, but you just, you try drawing fan art of it, no one will be interested in it because it will be so obvious you don't know a darn thing about Star Wars, and the fans won't appreciate it. Whereas if you think, hey, you know what, I'm really into Sherlock Holmes, and it's not that big right now, but you know what, this is what I'm into, I'm going to draw fan art of it, you can absolutely attract those fans. I'm specifically going on fan art just because I'm a geek, not because that's what you have to do, okay? That's my background. I mean, even with the Etsy stuff, I focused on fandoms, okay? It works for me. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I love, but it's not what you have to do, okay? For example, from the group, I know I've got one person in the group who paints landscapes of, I'm pretty sure it's Canada, but so I suggested that she kind of get in front of people who live in that area who appreciate landscapes of their home, and I think it worked for her. And there's another one who posts really beautiful nebulas, and so if she shared those in like space enthusiast groups, that's one way that you can find an existing audience. There are people who love nebulas and love pictures of nebulas and want them on their wall and would buy art of nebulas. Okay, it exists. All right, and so another con of that is that you can't stay true to yourself, and that's a reason that this path does not work for all artists. For example, commissions is one way that you can do this, and I can't do commissions. I hate it. It makes me miserable. All right, so even though there are plenty of artists who do very well with commissions, it's not for me. I can't do it. So yeah, just don't do what works for someone else. Do what works for you. All right, so the next way is to just create what you want and then build an audience around it. And this, this can be a really rewarding method because, you are just creating what you're most passionate about, what's most meaningful to you. Honestly, one of the reasons that I can't sell like my paintings and drawings is because I'm a bit too into business. So every time I try to sell my paintings, I end up kind of just business brain turns on, and I just think, oh, will this sell? Will this sell? And it creates horrible art for me personally, not for everyone, but this is my personal experience. And that's one reason I went for the craft route with Etsy, because I can do crafts while being in the business mindset, but I can't paint in that place. So if I ever decide that I want to be a painter and that's how I make my money, I'm going to have to really divorce myself while I'm painting from the business side of it and just create what I most want. And then I'll have to go out and find the audience based on that, okay? And so yeah, you do work that you want to do, and that's really fantastic, but it is slower, all right? This is a more difficult route. I'm not gonna lie to you about that, okay? It's slower to build an audience that way. It is not the easy way. It's not. All right, and so I want you to understand that. It takes more effort and time, and I do want you to understand that, because if you choose this route, it's gonna take you longer, and if you you go down this route and you're sitting there in a couple months from now and maybe a friend of yours is already getting sales and you're not, and you're sitting there thinking, why isn't this working for me? Well, because you're going in a method that is probably going to take more time and effort, all right? And there is nothing wrong with that, okay? Try not to compare yourself to other people, because it's just going to make you miserable. Do what works for you, all right? Not what works for anyone else, what works for you, all right? So, here's how you can create work that people already want. Some brainstorming ideas, if that's the path that you want to take. Okay, yeah, start out, just think about seriously, get out a pen, just think to yourself, what would I want to buy? All right, if you ever catch yourself thinking, oh man, I'd really like a picture of this, or wow, I'd really love a sculpture of that, create it. And also, absolutely, talk with your friends and family and find out what they'd be interested in buying. Okay, that's a great place to start. And now also ask yourself, what else am I passionate about, okay? When you're not doing art, what are you doing? What are your hobbies? What causes motivate you? What do you do with your friends? What do you care about? What are you passionate about, all right? I mentioned before, you do not want to do art that makes you miserable, because then you'll be miserable and you won't want to do it anymore, all right? You want to find a way that you can create work people want, that you want to create, all right? And a great way to do that is to focus on your passions. And now here are some things that can help with that. Think about things like sports teams that you're a fan of, what college or high school you went to. You can create things about patriotism. And I've labeled it patriotism, but it can be more local than that. For example, I used to live in a city named Durham. It was called, the mascot was a bull for a reason I never actually understood. But anyway, so people were like super into, Durham, hometown pride. And there were quite a few artists who did. They made like graphic designs and paintings and all this stuff of just the Durham Bulls. And it sold because people love Durham Bulls. It's like, okay. So if you live in a city that's like has a bunch of hometown pride, you can absolutely do that. If you live in a tourist area, you can figure out what tourists are most likely to buy and create that, stuff like that. You can also obviously do things like religion, fiction I already talked about, and then things like personal identity. And again, think about what you're passionate about, if there's if you're queer or something and you were like, I would just love to see a rainbow unicorn, create a rainbow unicorn. I did. Oh my gosh, I've seen so many queer pride flag little animals, and they are adorable, and they make me so happy. Anyway, so yeah, just think outside of the box. And now the last one, groups you belong to. This one I personally used very effectively. I happened to be on a forum for a couple of years that had this silly little mascot, and I was like, I'm good with clay. I can create a silly little mascot out of clay, and I bet people would like to buy keychains of that. And so I got permission from the administrators, of course, get permission, and then I posted and said, hey, I created a one just to get pictures, and I posted and said, hey, does anyone want to buy it? And I made a couple $100 from that forum, and just from people putting in orders. And so yeah, that was a great way to do it. So, don't be afraid. Seriously, think outside the box. Think about what you love to do. Think about the people you're around, the groups you're in, do not try to join a group just to make sales. But like if there's something that you're really passionate about and you're not in a group, hey, don't be afraid to like join that group and try. One thing to consider is that like especially for things like kind of activists or groups that hold events like choirs or whatever, they'll need graphic design, and so you can potentially get work that way if you're in the group. So yeah, definitely think outside the box there. And then yeah, figure out how to get your work in front of them. I already did suggest a few ways, but I actually didn't think about how much I need to talk about this when I was making the slide, but sales is hard, so I want to take a moment to really talk about this. So the way the world is right now, making sales, it's kind of counterintuitive, okay? So people are pretty much sick of like the over-the-top salesy, like in-your-face stuff. So the best way to make sales is to not try to make sales. All right, and that sounds counterintuitive, but honestly, the best way to get sales is to really just go out in the mindset of I want to share my work. I want to find people who appreciate it. You know, when you're thinking about like that, people are much more receptive to you. But if you just go out and like say, hey, you should buy from me, people will get shut off. All right. So if you go into like a Facebook group or like let's say you go into your college alumni group and say, oh, hey guys, I did this painting of the school mascot, and you just share it with them, then people, first of all, it is absolutely possible for you to get replies, people saying, I want to buy that. Second of all, people are going to be a lot more receptive to it. Like I've honestly seen artists make sales going into Facebook groups and just sharing their work or asking for advice. But honestly, I've never seen an artist go into a group and say, hey, you should buy from me and make a sale. Generally, they get banned for doing that, okay? So if you're honestly, like, if you're going out there and at least present yourself as genuinely just sharing your work or just trying to get advice, people will be much more receptive to you and you are more likely to make a sale. Whereas if you post your work and the first time someone's interested in it, you say, hey, do you want to buy? You're actually less likely to make sales that way. All right, so before we go any further, I'm going to really talk about who your audience is. Okay, this is a bit less important when you're creating work people already want. But when you are trying to create your own audience, this is so important, okay? So many artists think that their audience is just this big blue bubble up top of people who like your work. And so I've seen a lot of artists with like huge followings, like hundreds of thousands of people, and they're really not making much money. Like they can get by, but they're not comfortable. They're still stressed out about money. They're not really happy about it, and they feel like their finances, like they could just lose their income at any time. And this is people like a couple months back, I saw this amazing artist that I've been following for 15 years, so she's been posting her work and like building her audience for 15 friggin' years. And she made a post about how she'd been relying on ad revenue, and due to a change in ads, she wasn't making enough money anymore, and she might have to quit doing independent art. And like, oh my God, this woman is so like, she has so many followers, and the reason that she's still in that bad, icky position, because it does not feel good to be in a position where your income could like just disappear like that. That's not a nice place to be. I do not want you to ever be in that position, or at least not for any longer than you have to be. But the reason is because so many artists, they just focus on getting their art in front of as many people as possible, and they just focus on who likes my work. But that's only a relative, not the whole picture. It's not even half the picture, okay? So one point is that not everyone will buy art, all right? Yes, you can, over time, get fans who are loyal enough that even though they never buy art, you are the exception. But it's a hell of a lot easier to get fans who already enjoy buying art and are happy to add you to the list of people they buy from. Okay? Like, building that kind of loyalty takes years, and it will naturally happen, especially if you're putting your work online. If you are putting your work online, then honestly, you'll get people in just the blue bubble, but you want to focus on getting people in this little sweet spot, okay? People who will actually buy art and like your work. Now, the last bubble, this is one that I've seen a lot of artists, they don't like this bubble. They don't want to think about this bubble. They want to price themselves as cheap as possible, and I understand that, okay? I do. So many artists, we come from really humble backgrounds, and that's me, all right? I was not raised rich. I am not a millionaire. I have never made $10,000 in a month. You know, I live comfortably, but that doesn't mean that I'm rich, okay? And so I absolutely understand how it feels to look at something and wish you could buy it and just not have any room in the budget for it. And I know that doesn't feel good, and I know that a lot of artists don't want people to feel like that, you know, and they want everyone to be able to enjoy their work. But especially when it comes to selling originals and crafts, you have to be honest about this bubble. All right? If you want to make a living off of your work, you have to charge enough to make a living. You literally cannot make a living off of your art if you undercharge, because when you do that, then like there's not enough hours in the day, all right? If you charge like $3 an hour to create art, like it is literally impossible to make a living doing that, right? It's simple math. Now, if you are one of those people who doesn't want to price people out, who doesn't want to charge too much, I strongly encourage you to focus on things like prints and merchandise, because prints and merchandise, you can make those, like pretty much anyone can afford them, and then you can still make your originals what you're worth, and frankly, it's smarter to focus on prints and merchandise anyways. All right, so you do not want to just get your art in front of as many people as possible, because when you do that, you end up with a lot of people in this blue bubble who really like your work, but frankly will never buy it. All right, you want to get this nice little sweet spot of people who like your work, who are actually interested in buying art and can't afford it. So, you want to create what you want. Here is the steps to find your audience. All right, and we're going to go over these steps, and then I'm going to actually tell you how to implement these steps, okay? So, step 1, figure out how other people see my work. And this is really important. It gets into the objectivity we talk about because, look, artists, we are so intimately connected with the work. You know, we know all of the influences that went into it, everything we were thinking about, everything that inspired us. You know, there's so much emotion, so much time, so much love in it that frankly other people really don't have for the work, all right? People who aren't you, they're never gonna be able to see everything that went into the creation process. And honestly, a lot of your customers, we'll talk about this later, they're people who may not have ever created a work of art themselves and may not understand what goes into it. So it's really important to find out how other people see your work. And I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, okay? This is really important. And a lot of artists, they try to cheat. They try to take shortcuts, but you got to do this, all right, properly. So the next step is figure out who your work resonates with. And as you can imagine, that ties in with the first one, but this one makes it a lot more obvious about, you know, what does this have to do with selling my work? You know, who does it resonate with? Then you have to decide how much you want to charge. Now, admittedly, you can do that first, but these two are actually, these are the ones that are going to push you most out of your comfort zone. And that's why I put them first, because if you think about how much you want to charge, you can end up just putting off these two steps, and you got to do those first two steps, right? And then step 4 is finding your audience, and I wrote it super long to make it really clear that we are talking about the group that can afford your work, resonates with your work, and will actually buy it, okay? And then step 5, this one is a really important step that I see a lot of artists forget about. What kind of work are they actually interested in buying? This is another reason that you see people with huge followings that aren't necessarily doing so well. I've seen a couple of people like that who they complain that they're not getting a lot of merchandise sales, and then I look at their merchandise and it's basically just their logo, and I'm like, okay, not many people want to buy that, but like you have these amazing designs in your work that people would absolutely want to buy shirts from. Why are you not selling shirts with those designs? All right, so if you're only selling your originals, which again I actively discourage, this one's probably a bit less important, but seriously, like, what kind of merchandise would people like with your work on it, and not just merchandise, okay? Here is a huge thing that a lot of artists forget. You don't actually have to sell like any of your art or any of your merchandise to make a living as an artist, okay? You can just like write books and ebooks about how to do things. You can write books about how to carve candles. You can do videos showing how your wood carving process and teaching people how to do it, and people will pay for that. All right, especially like video courses. Those are doing really well right now because books, it can be hard to get everything from a book. So yeah, seriously, do consider that, all right? Don't think that you have to only sell your originals, because you don't. All right? All right, and so, of course, the final step is, where do you find them? And honestly, if you do these steps really well, you probably already have an idea of where to find them. But yeah, honestly, the final step is actually finding them and getting your work in front of them. So, getting objective. Ask total strangers. Now, this is the step that a lot of artists really resist and try to take shortcuts on, but it is vital. All right? Now, I mean it. Total strangers. This is how you find the first two steps. This is how you find out how others see your work and who it resonates with. Now, not your friends, not your family, not even like your coworkers or schoolmates. And the reason for that is because those people already know you. All right, so any feedback they give you on your work, it's going to be based on what they know of you. And most of your customers will probably be people who've never met you. So you don't want to know how your mother, who has known you your entire life, sees your work. You want to know how a potential customer who has never met you sees your work, okay? And I do suggest that you try and ask both professional artists and people who have never done art before. I probably shouldn't have written totally uninterested in art, because I don't mean... You want people who will buy art, but not necessarily people who create it, all right? Because, yeah, a lot of people who buy your work are people who've never created any themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it is really helpful to hear how professional artists describe your work versus how lay people describe your work, all right? Now, thankfully, we have the internet, so you do not have to actually go out and talk to people. Just, you don't have to totally put yourself out there to begin with, all right? You can actually go and find sites. And here's a couple of links, and if you signed up for this webinar, then you will be getting slides of this. And if you didn't sign up for the live webinar, sorry. Okay, so here's a couple of places to start out with. But honestly, like, look, use Google, use Facebook, find other places. And this is something that's, and just, okay, definitely, like I said, think outside the box. And then offline. And I really want you to do this, okay? Like, you can ask pretty much anyone. And now, don't go up accosting people, but, like, carry some pictures on your phone or a sketchbook or some of your creations that you can actually carry with you and just, chat with someone and say, hey, I'm an artist. I'd really love to get your feedback on my work, hear your opinions of it. All right, seriously, and I really do encourage you to go out and do this offline, and that it's almost certainly going to be super hard and awkward and uncomfortable the first 100 times you do it, assuming you even do it 100 times. Okay, look, it is not easy. But if you want to be a professional artist, honestly, you're going to have to be able to talk to people about your work, and getting face-to-face conversations is actually super valuable. You learn a lot from them, right? So, I mean it. Do this, okay? Remember earlier I said, write something down? I strongly encourage it to be this, and you can write down, I'm going to post it on Reddit or I'm going to post it in a Facebook group, Like, you can write down a specific place you're going to post it. You can decide what you're going to post. That's fine. And, seriously, do talk to people that you meet. And just for the record, I have really bad social anxiety, so I 100% understand how hard this is, okay? I do not think that I'm encouraging you to do something easy. I know that I'm not. But you gotta do this, alright? The reason you have to do this is because you cannot get the right answers by guessing or role-playing or talking to people who already know you well. I mean, unless the people who already know you well are also buying your work and there's enough of them buying your work to support you. In which case, why are you here? Alright, you need to go out and open yourself up, and also doing this, it is gonna really open you as an artist, okay? It's going to really open your mind about your own work. It's going to give you outside perspective. It's going to give you incredibly valuable feedback. It is going to help you grow as an artist, all right? So this is so valuable, all right? And again, it is not easy. It's hard and it's scary. But you got to do this, okay? Now then, I'm not just asking you to go out there blindly, all right, because it is tricky, and like I said, lots of trial and error to get to know what I know, all right? It is super important that you ask the right questions, and I'm going to tell you what those questions are. And as we go through, I'm even going to show you how asking these questions can occasionally lead to sales, all right? Yeah, because I'm helping you to make money. Okay. So the first is, these are the questions to help you understand how other people see my work. All right? And if you want to, you can just copy exactly this. Do not be afraid to use your own words, but try to keep the same basic sentiment. All right? And also, I strongly, strongly encourage you to specifically ask questions, especially when you're posting in Facebook groups and stuff, because if you just post your work, you're not going to get the information you need. So, describe this in 3 words or less, or even just describe this in 1 word. Now, the reason that we're saying 3 words or less is because first of all, it kind of makes people think. They can't just say the first thing that comes to mind. They have to think of 3 specific words, and they're usually adjectives. But it also makes it a lot easier for you to see trends. You'll see the kind of words that come up most often. And those words, they're how other people see your work. And those are the words that you should use to describe your work when you're talking to customers. All right? At least to start with. Once you start getting customers and you've really honed in on your audience, then talking to your audience is going to tell you what words to use. But you don't have an audience yet. So this is one really good place to do that. but you're also sometimes going to ask, how would you describe this piece? Now that's open-ended, so you're going to get a lot more information than just the 3 words, okay? And I do suggest that you mix and match and ask some of all of these because you get different information from each question, okay? And then you can also ask, what does this remind you of? All right, and listen, to what people say, and this, what does this remind you of? It can give you some insight about the kind of things that people are interested in. Like if you have a work and people say, oh, it reminds me of, a movie, then hey, maybe fans of that movie will like your work, even if your work isn't specifically related to the movie. There's nothing wrong with that. And you can also ask, what artist does this remind you of? And I know some artists, not all of them, but some artists really don't like this question. I've known some artists who are they feel very strongly like they're original, they're trailblazers, they're not like anyone else. But this is actually helpful because, again, it'll kind of give you an idea of how to describe your work and also where to look for people who will be interested in it, okay? Now, who does my work resonate with? And these questions are really good questions to ask, and I'm going to show you why. All right, so first of all, one way you can ask that, and by the way, who does my work resonate with? They work a little bit better, especially when you're in face-to-face conversations. Do not just go up to someone and ask them this. Have a conversation, start a rapport. But who does my work resonate with? This will work a bit better if you can get some people actually in conversations with you. Okay, so one way you can do that is to ask which friends of yours would like this. And now the important question here is to then ask questions about the friend. Now don't be really creepy and invasive, but you can ask things like, what kind of hobbies, what kind of music do they like, what kind of movies do they like? And that will help give you an idea about the kind of things that it resonates with. If every single person says, oh, that makes me think of my friend who really likes country music, then, country music fans is a very good place to start to find your audience. All right. But one really clever thing, and again, do not be a pushy salesperson. But if someone actually gives you an answer to this, which friends of yours, you can then ask the person to share your site or your Facebook page or whatever with their friend. All right, and so then that's actually one way that you can get the ball rolling for a potential sale. Because then if they do actually share it with their friend, it's a referral, which makes it more valuable. The person's more likely to really check it out and give you a chance. And if the friend really is someone who will like it, then they're more likely to become a fan of yours and actually buy something. And so, yeah, as I said, doing this, it is entirely possible to get a sale just by doing this. Okay, another question, what kind of person would hang this in their home? Obviously that's for paintings and photographs. You can also say what kind of person would wear this, what kind of person would use this, fit it to the work you do. And then same thing, ask some questions about them, about that person, what kind of hobbies are they into, what kind of music do they like, what kind of movies do they watch, whatever feels appropriate to ask. Again, not going too creepy. And again, yeah, ask them to, pass it on to their friend. Absolutely. Okay, and also, what kind of shop could you see this in? And that one, it's an unusual one, which makes people think, but it's also pretty clever because it will give you some good ideas about how to find your audience. They might say, oh, I could see that in Whole Foods, or I could see that in Hot Topic, or I could see it in GameStop, or I could see it in a hospital, or I could see it in a hotel, or I could see it in a business meeting room or something like that, just all. And if you get similar threads, then first of all, that's places that you can actually go to and ask them to hang up your work for sale, and that you could potentially get sales that way. It gives you insight into the kind of people that it resonates with, you know, and if it's something that a lot of people say that they can imagine seeing it in like a business headquarters, then hey, reach out to local businesses, see how they decide what kind of art they buy. Maybe try and sell it to like really professional business people, you know? Now, this tip, it's one that trips a lot of artists up, and honestly, it's pretty tricky but this is super important. Don't get defensive, okay? If you have any tools you use to kind of help you stay calm, use them, you know, if that means like carrying a stress ball or having like a tab open to videos of cute kittens, so that way when the comments start bugging you, you can go and look at the kittens. No, everything's okay. You know, happy kittens. I do actually suggest that works, as long as you don't get, you know, lost in the kitchen. Kittens. As I've said, our work, it's really personal to us, and when people say something that we don't want to hear, and seriously, I do this as well. It's something that I still have to be conscious of. You know, if I worked really hard on something and I put it out there asking for, you know, criticisms, and someone points out flaws in it, my knee-jerk response is to go, you know, like, screw you, it's perfect. But I have to be aware of that, and I have to quiet that response, and I have to actually listen if I want to grow and get the information I need. Okay, so it is absolutely possible that you'll get some answers that you don't like. And sometimes those people are just jerks and ignore them. But sometimes it'll turn out that the way you view your work and the way other people view your work is very different. And that can be hard to take. You know, it's really hard to put yourself out there and open yourself up when it comes to your work. But if you want to make a living doing this, you've really got to do that. All right, so yeah, I strongly encourage you not to get defensive, because I've seen quite a few artists miss out on amazing opportunities because instead of listening to a person and hearing clues about how to find people that want to buy their work, they got defensive and angry. And there's no point in going out and doing all this if you're just going to get defensive and shut down and not listen. Okay? And again, it's not easy, okay? It's not, all right? So seriously, be kind to yourself. Baby steps, all right? Pick one small step that you're going to do tomorrow, something like, okay, I'm going to post this picture in this group, and I'm going to ask people to describe it in 3 words, all right? And that is your to-do for tomorrow, all right? And you just take that one little step, all right? Just little baby steps. Okay, keep doing that, and you'll get there. This sounds simple, but you know what? First of all, it's not simple because finding your audience is hard, and it is really true, okay? If you figure out the people that want to buy your work, and those people, they are out there, okay? You gotta it is not easy to find them, but you can find them. And once you find those people, and you understand them, you understand why they like your work, so that way you can use the right words to describe it, you understand the kind of work they're most interested in buying from you, so that way you can, you know, create that kind of merchandise or sell those kinds of prints, or again, create those kind of videos. Once you understand your audience, then honestly, everything just falls into place, because you'll know where to find those people, and honestly, you'll be able to go out and have conversations with those people. And as you start getting customers, you can have conversations with your customers that'll help you steer your business in the right direction. And that, honestly, it's more valuable than like any business tool, any business technique, any like marketing trick in the world is useless without truly understanding your audience, okay? It will save you a lot of time and a lot of grief. All right, so that was actually a lot, and if you implement this, I know it's not going to be easy for you to do, but it's going to make a huge difference, all right? So I do want to see you do that, and if you are in the Facebook group, which I, of course, strongly suggest everyone to be in who's watching this, you know, I want to hear from you, okay? I want to hear if you start implementing these things, what kind of results you get, and I've mentioned to someone already, but if this is something that that really resonates with you, but you need more help than just a webinar, let me know, and we can have a chat about it. Okay. All right. So thank you so much for watching all of this. I am so sorry for the complete disaster that the live webinar was, and thank you for hanging out there. And I look forward to seeing what you do with this and how you implement this in your own practice and the results you get. Okay. Seriously, please do share those with me. All right. Thank you so much.